Well, folks, we're a third of the way through the season, and everything we thought we knew going into the season has just crumbled in our faces, and we got a lot of new stuff happening, and we're just going to throw all that old shit out the window, and we're going to start with a new slate, the new re-rack of the conferences, where I think we're sitting today, because what we thought we knew going into the preseason and what we've seen 3 and 4 weeks later is just not the same. And obviously, it starts down there in Clemson with Dabo Swinney, because he has been a leading disappointment in the charge of disappointments in the 2025 college football season. And then we have my national championship pick, Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who quite frankly, as you'll see in a little bit in the show, I don't even know that there's a road for them to get to the playoffs as it sits now. But we're going to break it all down with the re-rack. That's right, we're going to re-rack these conferences and see exactly where I think, that's all that matters, where these teams are going to be placed here going into week number 5 in the college football season. So let's get to it. Let's look at the SEC. That's right, the Southeastern Conference here. And we are going to start with looking at a re-rank of these teams and how I'm looking at them right now today. This is Sunday, the day after week 4. And I'm going to put the Georgia Bulldogs here at the top of the class. Now, I thought going into the season, this might be a little bit of a down year for Georgia. It still could. We'll see where these games go. We got a big game next week against Alabama. But I think Georgia, as we speak right now, is the best team currently. They got the win in Tennessee, and yes, Tennessee probably should have won that game 3 ways to Sunday, but they didn't, and Georgia went on the road and won that game. And I'm going to tell you that Tennessee is my second ranked team in the SEC as we sit right now. And again, yes, this win over Syracuse looks even more impressive today than what it did a couple weeks ago. And saying that is that Syracuse beat Clemson in a more dominant fashion, in my opinion, than LSU did at the beginning of the season. Hard to compare the games, but anyways, bottom line is, I think Tennessee is the second best team here in the SEC as it sits today. They should have won that game. Again, 3 ways to Sunday against Georgia. They fell just a little short in overtime. Yes, at home, but still a tremendous showing for Tennessee. I thought they might come out yesterday angry. I took the 23.5 in the first half, and man, was I a winner on that, because Tennessee did exactly what I thought they were going to do, which was go blow out a team that they should have blew out. All right, my number 3 team here in the SEC as it stands today, Sunday, is LSU. I am still not 100% sold on this LSU offense. Sure, last night they went out and threw up, 49 points or something like that, whatever. We'll see here in the next few weeks as they get playing stiffer competition if they can play. Now, the question is, we saw this Florida Gator defense, man, this thing is dynamite. Considering their offense is literally terrible, the worst I've ever seen at the University of Florida for sure, at least in my lifetime. LSU struggled with Florida offensively, but so did Miami last night, really until in the fourth quarter. I mean, Florida was dominating that game defensively. They just couldn't do anything offensively. So I got LSU sitting in the 3 spot. I'm moving Oklahoma here at 4. Oklahoma's defensive showing yesterday with 10 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, a safety. I mean, this defense is just really, really dynamite. Now, we could say they won this game on some fluky. The refs are now admitting that this play should have been stood. It was a 7-point play. It was a 7-point game. Obviously, Oklahoma, if they don't get that touchdown, who knows what could happen here. But I'm still going to go with this defense. I really like the defense of Oklahoma here. I'm going to put Texas A&M at number 5. I think Marcel Reed is just a game maker and a game exploder, and he can make things happen out of nothing. And that is something that Texas A&M is going to need over the next few weeks. I'm going to bring Missouri in at 6. I love the transfer from Penn State. They really played well last night against South Carolina. I thought they let South Carolina hang in the game longer than what they should have. They ended up getting a win, and that was great for them. The next 3 teams you can mix up however you want, but I'm going to put them in this order right here. I'm going to put Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and Alabama. So that would be 7 for Vanderbilt, 8 for Ole Miss, 9 for Alabama. Alabama could make a tremendous jump this week by going on the road and ending that home win streak, 34, 33, 35, whatever it is down there in Georgia. I think they're going for their 34th. Some places said they're 35th. Some places said they're 34th. Anyways, whatever it is, Alabama can make a big statement by going and beating my number one team in the SEC, and that would be the Georgia Bulldogs. But I like where Vanderbilt's going here, man. I didn't think much of Diego. I thought he was kind of a talker and, whatever, but he's played well. They got some big games. We'll see if they can win them. And Ole Miss, man, they're just competing along. I would not be surprised to see Ole Miss up here in the top 5 of this conference in the next few weeks with some of the games they got. And then I'm going to finish out this, not with Texas, not with Auburn, but with Mississippi State. I'm going to put Mississippi State at the number 10 team in the SEC, which is amazing considering I selected them early in the season, preseason, to win 2 games. And here they are, my number 10 team, and moving up fast in this charts right here. I think that win over Arizona State, we saw Arizona State's win over Baylor yesterday, and this is just getting better and better for Mississippi State and as they move up. I'm putting Texas and Auburn just outside the top 10. I'm sorry, Texas fans. This is not a top 10 team in the SEC as it sits today. You go beat Oklahoma and you go to the swamp. We'll see. Listen, Florida's going on a bye week. This defense is tremendous, folks. If you don't think Florida's defense is great, considering what they're having to do defensively with making up for that offense. I mean, this might be one of the best defenses I've seen in a long time, the way they're playing, even though, and they gave up 26 points to Miami. If I would have told you in preseason they were going to give up 26 points to Miami, you would have thought that the Florida Gators were going to win that game. But here we are, and Texas has to go there next, so we're going to see how Arch Manning handles that Florida Gator defense. And that'll tell us a lot moving forward because we saw Nussmeier struggle against it. We saw Carson Beck yesterday struggle against it. I mean, really, it was Miami's running game yesterday that took care of them. So Texas and Auburn are going to finish out this. This is crazy. I'm really having a hard time not seeing how 5 SEC teams are going to get into the playoff. That means we'd only have 3 Big Ten teams or 1 ACC team if we had 4 Big Ten teams. It's just going to be something. So it's really important for these SEC teams over the next month of October to position themselves to be in the top 4 of the SEC, because if not, you might not get in, even though you might be deserving, just because of the way some of the other rankings and teams are going to fall here. So quite the deepest conference for sure in terms of overall depth. Again, Georgia and Tennessee are my top 2, followed by LSU and Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Mississippi State to round out the SEC. Let's dive into the Big Ten, and man, we got about 5 teams in here, 4 teams in here for sure that look like playoff contenders, and then we'll see where the other 2 or 3 lie from there. But let's start with, I've been struggling with this. I'm going to put Ohio State at number 1 right now as where we stand in the conference today. That could clearly change next week when they go on the road to Washington. We'll see. I'm putting Oregon a close second, and I'm putting Indiana a real close third to number 1. What I saw last night with Indiana was impressive, folks. Growing up an Ohio State fan, you never have any expectations for Indiana in my whole entire life. I mean, when Bill Mallory was there, they were okay. But anyways, bottom line here is Kirk Cinetti has a team here that, quite frankly, just dominated that game. This is an incredibly fast football team. This defensive line is top tier. The way they played, they held Illinois to 2 yards rushing in the whole game. The entire game, they had 2 yards rushing. This defense up front is just incredible. Their skill positions are, and Fernando Mendoza. I mean, I think it's up here. John Mateer and Fernando Mendoza right now is my top two leading Heisman Trophy candidates, the way he looked last night. Think about this, folks. Indiana was playing Illinois, was the number 9th ranked team in the country. And they went ahead and sat their quarterback at the beginning of the fourth quarter. That's how much of a blowout this was. So anyways, Indiana is moving up fast, and you know who's falling fast here, and they didn't play, but we're going to see him next week for sure in a big game against Oregon. That's Penn State. I got Penn State moved down to the 4th best team in the conference as we sit today. I'm wondering, after watching that Missouri game last night, if maybe the wrong guy transferred out of Penn State, because I thought Bo at Missouri looked really good last night. And I'm wondering what he could look like with this Penn State offense and running game. But anyways, we'll never know. USC I got coming in at 5th as we speak right now, and Michigan at 6th. I'm going with USC just because of the little bit better quarterback position play that we're getting right now out of USC. I think Bryce Underwood at Michigan made big strides yesterday. Didn't have a great stat line passing the ball, like still 50%, a little bit over 100 some yards passing. But I thought Michigan went on the road in a game I thought that they wouldn't win by as much as they did or win at all. And they did, and they won. And you know, Justice Haynes is the real workhorse of this team, and if he's on fire, this offense is on fire. The question is, when he's off, what's going to happen? But I really like the way Bryce Underwood went into Nebraska yesterday and won that game in the fashion, even though it wasn't the greatest looking performance by him. I still think the improvement every week is getting there for him as a freshman. All right, I'm going to move Illinois down to 7 here, even though that was a terrible game yesterday against Indiana. I don't know that we're going to see that kind of performance again when they go on the road to Oregon and to play Ohio State at home. I think they're going to be a much different looking team. Brett Bielema is going to learn from what happened at Indiana, and we'll see how they play against them. It's going to be a great measuring stick for these other teams to see who plays and who produces against these teams that we just saw Indiana put a beat down on. I'm going to go with Washington at 8. They have a big opportunity here. They got Ohio State coming in next week in the Husky Stadium. It's going to be rowdy and raucous, and they're going to be really ready to win this game. They've got a big home winning streak, second in the country on the line there. So we'll see how they perform. They can make a move up. In Iowa, at number 9, Iowa's made big strides over the last few weeks since that Iowa State game on producing better with this offense. I thought that was a really strong performance at Rutgers, who's not a pushover at all. Rutgers is actually going to have a lot of say in this Big Ten, considering that they still have to play Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State all coming up, so we'll see how good Rutgers is there. But I thought that was a big win going into Rutgers on Friday night with the big crowd and performing the way they did. And I like what they did there to get the number 9 spot. All right, the number 10 spot, and we're really digging deep here, but the Maryland Terrapins, this is a really improved football team, and this freshman quarterback is really pretty solid. So I like Maryland finishing out the top 10 of the Big Ten. So we're going to go OSU, Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, USC, Michigan, Illinois, Washington, Iowa, and round it out with Maryland. And I think we're going to see a lot of what we want to know next Saturday, when we got 3 big games inside of this. We got Ohio State and Washington. We got obviously the whiteout with Oregon and Penn State. And then we got Indiana rolling into Iowa. And we're going to find out exactly if this Indiana team is as good as they look last night. If they can roll into Iowa and do the same type of thing to them, they may really fastly jump up here quickly into this top. So great depth here. Not as deep as the SEC right this moment, but still trending is definitely the second deepest conference in the country. Maybe the best top end. We'll see as it goes on. All right, let's look at this ACC here. And what we got on top is really, we've got 3 teams I think that this is a real race for right now to get to the championship game. And I think Georgia Tech has the inside track here, but I'm going to put Miami at 1, Florida State 2, Georgia Tech 3. This is real close. We're going to find out. Miami and Florida State play in just two weeks, I think. Might be 3, but it's real soon. It's in the next few weeks. And Georgia Tech really doesn't have a very tough schedule to finish out this season. So I think it's really going to boil down to Georgia Tech in the winner of the Miami-Florida State game in the championship game of the ACC, and the loser of the Miami-Florida State game sitting there trying to figure out, are they going to get the playoff spot, or is the 5th team in the SEC going to get the playoff spot? That's what I think we're really working for here in the ACC. There are a few other teams down the thing that could make a run. Louisville, Syracuse looked really good yesterday. Really strong performance against Clemson, who I don't know what the hell happened to Clemson. I am not the only person who had Clemson so highly ranked this year. The whole country did, and what we're seeing with Dabo is just absolutely amazing. It's amazing this is being recorded in the way it is, and the absolute meltdown of the Clemson program as we see it today. With that being said, Clemson still 1-3. They got a lot to play for pride-wise. They're not going to make any playoff or anything like that, but they can sure ruin it for someone else here in the ACC, and that would be Florida State by all accounts. I thought Cal last week looked really good against Miami and had a real shot with the schedule to make a run at the ACC playoff or championship game because they just didn't play anybody. They didn't play Georgia Tech. They didn't play Clemson. They didn't play Florida State. They didn't play Miami. They didn't play anybody. And Segapalute looks to be a really good freshman quarterback. And then they go to San Diego State last night and lay one of the biggest eggs I've ever seen. This was a late game. You probably didn't stay up to watch it. I stayed up, and it was just absolutely horrendous. It was 34-0. San Diego State just dominated Cal, and not a good look for the ACC because, honestly, out of the top 3, this is, from there down, is real questionable. I mean, I just gave you Louisville, Syracuse, Cal, but after that, it's a crapshoot. Look, I thought NC State was looking pretty decent. They go into Duke and lay an egg after leading in this game. I mean, it's just Duke loses to Tulane, who then turns around and gets spanked by Ole Miss yesterday. I just don't see much depth here in the ACC to go much below 3 teams. I really think it's going to be the winner of the Miami-Florida State game, playing Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech just doesn't have another tough game in the ACC. They had the Georgia game at the end of the year, but obviously not in the ACC. So I think it's a 3-horse race, and I really think it comes down to the winner of the Florida State Miami game on who's going to play Georgia Tech in the championship game and get that spot in the playoff. And honestly, at that point, it's just going to be a question mark of who do they take a second, the loser of the ACC championship game, or do they take the loser of the Miami-Florida State game that's sitting on the outside if they've only lost 1 game at that point? I don't know what's going to happen here, but I feel like we're going to have 3 10-1 teams or 11-1 teams here in the ACC, and maybe only 1 gets in. It's going to be real interesting to find out as we move forward. All right, let's discuss the Big 12 here for a few minutes. This conference has got a lot of opportunities for who's going to win this thing at the end of the season, and it's only going to produce 1 playoff team for sure. No questions about that. And we're going to start at the number 1 spot this week with Texas Tech. And honestly, that game yesterday, yes, they won 34-10 on the road at Utah. Great win. But if you look at the way Texas Tech played through most of the game, it wasn't really great. They had a really tremendous fourth quarter, but this team committed like 14 penalties for 122 yards. They turned the ball over 2 times on the road, which is, if you would have told me Texas Tech was going to turn the ball over 2 times, have 14 penalties, and for 122 yards, I would have told you they're probably going to lose this game. Somehow they beat the crap out of Utah with the backup quarterback after their starter went down, Morton. And it's just it's a real question if Texas Tech is super great or if Utah just was not that great yesterday, which I hate these 10 o'clock starts in Utah and wherever else they do these 10 a.m. starts. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's hard enough starting at 11 a.m. for the Central Time Zone, but 10 a.m. in the Mountain is just silly. All right, I'm going to put Arizona State as my number 2 team here. I still like what I'm seeing out of Arizona State. They need to get a little bit more help, get some more playmaker besides Jordan Tyson. Man, the guy is just he's the big time playmaker. You know he's going to get covered. He's literally has most of the catches in the wide receiver room. And Sam Levitt still throws him the ball and he still makes the plays. He's just an incredible talent there at Arizona State. I'm going to put Iowa State at 3rd. I'm still not sold on Iowa State's offense to get into a game and win it in the fashion that's going to take in the Big 12 at some point. I'm going to put BYU at number 4 and TCU at number 5 here. Then we're going to move to Utah down to number 6, Baylor at number 7, Arizona, Houston, and Kansas round out the top 10 here. Again, this is a one-trick pony in the playoff here in the Big 12. Arizona State is my predicted favorite still to win this conference. I still think Sam Levitt is the best quarterback in the conference in terms of playmaking ability and mindset and just his overall approach to the game. I still think he's the best. I still like their running game. This was a defensive struggle yesterday with Baylor until the fourth quarter when both offenses kind of exploded to finish it. But I still like Arizona State to win this conference. And I like Texas Tech and Arizona State to probably play in the conference championship game at the way it's going right now. So we'll see. But TCU, you know, they had a strong performance against SMU yesterday and won a game that I thought they were going to win, but other people didn't think so. And BYU is a surprise. This team could surprise people and make their way into it again, too. They're a talented team. So it's a real crapshoot here, but we know one thing. Only one team's getting in. So whoever it is better play their ass off for the next 8 or 9 weeks because this is only going to be a one-trick pony here. And if you want to get in this playoff, you got to be, and if you want any chance in hell of not having to go to the number 5 or number 6 team in the country to start the season or to start the playoff, you better get these wins and rack them up and have a 1-loss or 0-loss team, which Arizona State would have to be a 1-loss because they're lost to Mississippi State on the road. So, all right, that's our follow-up on the Big 12. Talk a minute about Notre Dame here, and the problem I think that Notre Dame has is I think they have the 2 best losses in the country. They lost to Miami, and they lost to Texas A&M by a total of 4 points. The problem is that gives them 2 losses, and I just don't know how they're going to fit into this playoff. We just looked at the other conferences, and what I think we know is I'm telling you, I think we're going to get 4 Big Ten teams in here, and for 4 SEC teams for sure. We're going to get 1 ACC team. We're going to get 1 team, obviously, from the group of 5 teams, the Little Six. We're going to get 1 Big 12 team in here. And then the question is, who's that other spot for? Is it going to be the ACC runner-up or Florida State Miami loser? Is it going to be the SEC number 5 team getting the bid? I just don't know, projecting out here the way these games look to be on paper, which, trust me, none of that is going to matter until we get them on the field. But I just don't see where Notre Dame's fitting into the playoff today with the 2 losses and the fact that we got such a deep SEC. We got a top-heavy ACC where we're going to have 3 teams more than likely with just 1 loss or maybe no loss. We'll see. In the Big Ten, I mean, look, Indiana, if they can continue to play like they've played, yes, they've got some tough games. They split these games. Are we going to have, we're going to have 4 1-loss teams, or more than likely we're going to have 3 1-loss teams and a 10-2 team. However this Big Ten breaks down, I think there's going to be 4 teams coming out of it the way it looks right now. And I just don't know how Notre Dame's going to fit into this mix with the 2 losses, even though they're the 2 best losses in the country. So they got a lot of work to do. What would go a long way for them is to not give up 30 points to Purdue. Yes, it was a blowout. They scored over 50 points. But when you're giving up 30 points to Purdue, I'm wondering how many points you're going to give up to USC here when it's time to play them. So they can't lose that game to USC. They really need to look dominant against USC in that game, because that's probably going to be their biggest competition left to date that's going to get national spotlight, especially if USC can stay undefeated, which they got to go on the road to Illinois this week. So we'll see if they can do that. I got a feeling Illinois will play better than they did yesterday. So Notre Dame is really, this was my national championship pick going into the season, and here I am 4 weeks in, and I really don't think, even if they win out, based on what I think we're going to see in the other conferences, I still don't think a 10-2 Notre Dame is going to get into playoffs based on what we see. So if I'm Notre Dame, I'm hoping for mass chaos. You got to get some of these SEC teams down to 3 and 4 losses. You got to have, some upsets in the ACC. Your Clemson's your best friend here. You need, Miami to beat Florida State, and then you need Florida State to lose to a Clemson. You need Georgia Tech to somehow not win the ACC and leave like a Miami or Florida State, the winner of that game, sitting behind them. So if I'm Notre Dame, I'm rooting for chaos. That's the only thing I can root for and hopefully win my games in front of me. All right, let's spend a quick minute here on the Little Six. That's right, the group of 5 plus a Pac-12. That will be the Little Six. And we've got this really boils down to 2 opportunities here to get in. Because yesterday we saw the Toledo Rockets shit the bed. I mean, this was one of my teams to get an opportunity to play in the playoff. They almost hung tight with Kentucky. And then I thought, okay, well, they can go out and win 11 games in a row and, win the MAC championship and have a spot. But no, they couldn't beat one of the directional Michigan schools yesterday, and they shit the bed for sure. And Toledo probably should join the state of Michigan with that performance again. I know we fought over that in a preemptive war at one point, but Toledo just shit the bed. So that leaves us with the winner of the American Conference or UNLV. I don't think Boise State has a chance to get into the playoffs. They still have to go to Notre Dame, and they still have to play UNLV, and they'd have to win the championship game, which is more than likely against UNLV too. So Boise State's out. They're just not in it. They're not in the mix here. So it's UNLV and Dan Mullins. Surprisingly enough, maybe Dan can get a bigger job after all these firings occur everywhere again. Hell, maybe he'll go back to Florida. Who knows? But I got it down to Memphis, Navy, North Texas, and Tulane. Which one of these teams could win the conference and get the higher ranking than UNLV if UNLV can stay undefeated? If UNLV stays undefeated, I think they're going to be the team in. But I'm really thinking the American Conference champion at the end of the day, because I'm not trusting Dan Mullins winning every game this year. So I'm going to go with the American Conference champion. My front runner has always been Navy, although I thought this was going to be a better Navy team going into the season than last year. So far, they've been kind of pedestrian in their game, so we'll see what happens. They got a big road game against Notre Dame. Maybe they can make something happen later in the season. North Texas is quite the surprise. Tulane, I thought they'd play better against Ole Miss yesterday. And then Memphis with the big upset win of Arkansas, which, going into the game, I thought Arkansas played pretty well last week. But I'm not overly surprised that Memphis pulled the upset because of the fact Arkansas was going out of conference after playing a conference game, and they have another conference game, or they have another game next week, this coming week, with Notre Dame. So it's that sandwich game, and it's not surprising that Memphis won that. I really do think the American Conference is going to produce the group of 5, little 6 team here. But UNLV is definitely the front runner outside of that, and every other conference is pretty much wiped from consideration. All right, well, there's my conference re-rack as we move in to week 5 of the college football season. That's right, folks. 2 more weeks, and we'll be halfway through, and I think we'll have a little bit more answers. Maybe. We'll see. We got Alabama going on the road to Georgia. We got Oregon going to Penn State. We got Ohio State going to Washington. We've got a lot of good games. We've got Notre Dame and Arkansas. We'll see. This will be a little test for Notre Dame to see if they're actually any good or if they're just going to whittle away. Again, I just told you I don't think they got a shot to the playoffs as it stands today, but we'll see. Beating an SEC team might get them back on the track, although that SEC team just lost to Memphis. A lot to go on here. And we got Indiana going to Iowa. That's right. That's going to be an interesting game too. So bottom line here is that at the end of the day, we don't really know anything other than what we think is that we're going to get 4 Big Ten, 4 to 5 SEC teams, and someone's going to be crying the blues here from the ACC or Notre Dame. The Big 12's only getting 1 in anyways, and the American Conference is still my favorite to put a team in the playoffs. So that's where we stand. It's so exciting. I can't wait till next Friday. We got some decent games on Friday. We got Florida State going to Virginia. For those old timers like me, I can still remember the first ACC loss Florida State ever took was at Virginia on a Thursday night back in the day. So this could be a tricky game. Virginia's not a great team, but they're not terrible either. So we're going to find out exactly where we sit next week. We got Arizona State playing next week too on a Friday night. Just slipped me on who they were playing. But anyways, at the end of the day, we still don't know a lot about these teams, but we're soon to find out over the next 2 weeks. So hope you enjoyed the show. And remember, gather round in ALTT. We'll see you on Tuesday for the release of the Baker's Dozen show. It's going to be real exciting. There's going to be clearly a re-rack of teams in the top 13 Baker's Dozen. And we're going to put our weekly predictor show out there on Thursday. You'll see where we are looking at these big games and who I think could win these games and maybe some money lines and a parlay or two to keep you excited about the game. So thanks for joining. We'll see you soon.